I'm good. My son who's at college is I'm picking him up at the airport in a little bit, coming home for Thanksgiving break, and that is just gonna be fantastic and amazing. Um, and uh and I continue to I've talked about this in a couple episodes, but I've been digging out from a really unbelievable and singular in my life manic episode in October of 2021 where I acquired a lot, and I've been digging out from that for a long time, and I have hit more milestones in that in the last 2 weeks, than certainly at any point, and even, like, maybe not even put it that way, but, like, I've unstuck things that were starting to feel permanently stuck and were causing me a great deal of pain and despair, because I felt like, why? Because, like, this acquisition, which I cannot overstate how much I acquired in the land of old tools in this 1 month. Um, but what is so hard about it is I haven't acquired anything since that episode. So I am still dealing with when I have the ability. It's not that I don't have the time. I've had the time to dig out of it, but I have a full-time job. I'm a parent. It's mostly out in the garage or was in my sort of driveway, which is sort of an enclosed area because I'm in the city. It's in the back and whatever. Um, but like, yeah, so I've had all the time in the world, but when something like that happens, or at least when it happened to me, it broke me, to use your word. It changed my sense of self. It changed my identity. It made me not trust myself, and I've always trusted myself, in like really important ways. And part of it's just like I grew up, like pretty much hanging on my own and figuring things out for myself. And I had to trust myself. And so I just do. And that kind of broke that. And it also broke like my sense of how I'm being received by other people. Cause when you're as manic as I was, um, you kind of know, but you don't know. And until someone tells you this is really fucking hard for me, or you seem really not okay. And that's a big surprise. It was in that moment. I haven't had an episode like that since and never had one before. Um, but what had been so hard all these years is, so I have like, okay, I live in the city. I have a driveway in the alley, but I actually have an unusual kind of like compound. I initially named it after Osama bin Laden's compound, but my family would prefer I didn't. Um, but because I thought it's the only compound I know a name of. Um, but anyway, I have this really interesting situation where it's like it's a two-car garage attached to what had been a single family home, like just 12 by 24 feet, very small. And and I had pretty much like filled that up, but also overflowed into my driveways. So there was just always for years, these last years, there's been stuff covered in tarps and all this stuff. And what sucked about it so much was that it was so visible to any of my neighbors driving through the alley. So like my illness was so visualized in ways that I was almost helpless to reduce in any meaningful way. It was just always a little bit there. And I at some point I was like, what sucks about this is that mostly other ways that I might be not well or, you know, broken permanently or temporarily, it's not on display.
Right.
And there's not a data visualization for it, right? And with this, neighbors would come over, "What's going on over here?" Or they'd see it in my garage and I'd like quick want to close it or whatever. It's the worst feeling, worst feeling. And so yeah, that was what was unusual about that particular. I've had different diagnoses over my life, but those are all things that exist inside me, inside my closest relationships, are usually not terribly, outwardly presented, right? But this was a thing where like I felt like I had no control to fully control it, even over like 2 years or 3 years. And so I didn't have a way for people to know I'm okay now. And that was something I badly wanted. Like
Sure.
especially just I like my neighbors and I know what it would look like to me if I was on the outside. I'd feel a little bad for that guy,
Sure.
like that guy kind of seems like he's kind of messed up. And sometimes your neighbors don't know you but from the alley, right? Like
Yeah,
so yeah,
sure.
like we're like we get along, we talk a lot, but like they've never been in my house or you know what I mean? So it's like they don't know that in my house it's a nice, clean, warm place and that I have an easy demeanor and I'm not just like causing chaos, whatever.
Sure.
So anyway, I hit a milestone, which is maybe only understandable to me, which is that winter's coming, as they say in TV, and as we know as Minnesotans and others, maybe in cold climates, like when winter's coming, you have prep to do. You got if you have
Mhm.
a house, you got to get the yard ready. You got to get those leaves out of the way. You got to move shit that you don't want to be frozen to the ground for the entire season. And for the first time in 4 years, I did my prep and there's nothing under tarps in my driveway, there's
Wow.
nothing. It just looks like a wonderful home and with
Nice.
a garden and a
That
patio,
is a
and
milestone.
it's a huge milestone, and I hit it. I only realized it because it was rain, and it was gonna rain. It hadn't rained in forever, and usually when it rains, I'm like, "Oh shit, it's raining." I'm very attuned to the weather because I need to go out and cover shit up or whatever, so it doesn't get wet. And it started raining. I'm like, "I gotta do rain prep," and I walked outside, and I'm like, "I have rain prep to do," and that was such an incredible moment for me.